You might think Downton Abbey captured the golden age of Edwardian drama, but the Edwardian era has even more hidden treasures, full of daring stories, whispered scandals, and shifting class lines. From the battlefields of war to the glittering salons of Europe, these dramas pull you in and refuse to let go. Vienna Blood. Set in the early 1900s, Vienna Blood follows Max Liebermann, a brilliant young doctor fascinated by the new science of the mind. Studying under Freud, Max is drawn into police work when Detective Oscar Reinhardt recognizes how Max's psychological insights can unlock motives polite society prefers to hide. Their uneasy partnership threads through cafe conversations, charity balls, and back-alley secrets as they confront prejudice, class anxiety, and the tremors of a fracturing empire. Each case is less about gore than about why people break: jealousy in music halls, fanaticism in salons, desperation behind polished doors. Max believes the psyche can be mapped. Oscar trusts experience and instinct. The tension between them mirrors a city caught between ceremony and modernity. What makes the series addictive is how personal the mysteries become, forcing both men to question loyalties, reputations, and the price of telling the truth in a place that prizes appearances. Upstairs, downstairs. Between 1903 and 1930, one Belgravia townhouse becomes a miniature of Britain itself. Upstairs, downstairs weaves together the fortunes of the aristocratic Bellamy family and the servants who manage their world, showing how lives intersect across a staircase and a social gulf. Courtships bloom and wither, secrets travel faster than telegrams, and dinners become battlefields for politics, etiquette, and pride. The series gently tracks history's footfalls: the suffrage cause, the Titanic, the First World War, while staying rooted in intimate moments: a butler's quiet devotion, a maid's risky romance, a lady's decision that defies expectation. It's compelling because no one is merely background. The cook's compromise can sting as sharply as a statesman's scandal. The Crimson Field. In The Crimson Field, war strips the Edwardian world down to courage and care. A group of nurses, orderlies, and doctors run a field hospital in France during World War I, improvising with dwindling supplies, while shells pulse on the horizon. They are women raised on restraint, now forced to make decisions that carry life and death weight. Every arrival tells a story, farm boys and officers alike, each bearing wounds the bandage cannot reach. The series balances operating table urgency with quiet, aching scenes, a letter dictated to a trembling hand, a nurse steadying herself after a loss, friendships that form because survival requires them. Rules of rank blur under canvas, compassion becomes the only authority that holds. Yet personal histories still matter: secrets from home, romances that might not survive the next convoy, past mistakes begging for redemption. It's a portrait of grace under pressure, where heroism looks less like speeches and more like showing up again tomorrow. The House of Eliott. Orphaned and nearly penniless in early 1920s London, Beatrice and Evangeline Eliott decide that if society won't open its doors, they'll stitch their own. The House of Eliott follows the sisters as they transform talent into a fashion house, turning sketches and scraps into gowns that carry dreams. Clients bring more than measurements: reputations to repair, futures to announce, rebellions to signal in silk and chiffon. The sisters face ruthless competitors, unreliable patrons, and the endless arithmetic of rent versus ambition. But the real thread is their relationship: two different temperaments, learning when to compromise and when to fight. As the 1920s loosen corsets and rules, the Eliotts hire, teach, and protect other women, carving out livelihoods, reframing ladylike as capable. The show proves that a dress can be armor and invitation at once, and that building a business in a man's world means mastering elegance, ingenuity, and a stubborn refusal to wait for permission. A Room with a View. Based on E.M. Forster's beloved novel, A Room with a View is a lush Edwardian romance that begins in the sun-drenched streets of Florence. Lucy Honeychurch, a young Englishwoman travelling with her chaperone, finds her carefully ordered world unsettled when she meets the unconventional George Emerson. Their brief but electric connection lingers long after she returns to the rigid propriety of England. Torn between passion and social expectations, Lucy must decide whether to follow her heart or conform to the life others have mapped out for her. With its sweeping Italian vistas, charming English countryside, and gentle wit, the film captures both the beauty of first love and the quiet rebellion of choosing it. It's a tender, sometimes playful, and deeply human portrait of a young woman learning that true freedom lies in listening to herself. Finding Neverland. Set in Edwardian London, Finding Neverland tells the moving story of playwright J.M. Barrie and the friendship that inspired his most famous creation, Peter Pan. Struggling to reignite his career, Barrie meets Sylvia Llewellyn-Davies, a widowed mother, and her 4 imaginative sons. As he spends time with them, their games and adventures awaken his own sense of wonder, helping him escape the constraints of polite society. But behind the laughter and make-believe lies the shadow of illness and loss, lending the story a bittersweet depth. With its blend of whimsy and poignancy, the film captures the transformative power of imagination not just for children but for anyone who dares to dream. It's a heartfelt reminder that sometimes the most magical places aren't faraway lands, but the people who inspire us to see the world differently. The Knick. Set in New York City at the turn of the 20th century, The Knick takes viewers inside the Knickerbocker Hospital, where medical innovation collides with personal ambition and social upheaval. At its center is Dr. John Thackeray, a brilliant but deeply flawed surgeon whose groundbreaking techniques are matched by his addiction to cocaine and opium. The series explores the challenges of medicine in an era before antibiotics, when every operation carried enormous risk. It also confronts issues of race, class, and gender through characters like Dr. Algernon Edwards, a gifted black surgeon fighting for respect in a segregated system. With its raw portrayal of early surgical procedures, political corruption, and the growing divide between rich and poor, The Knick paints a vivid picture of a city and a profession on the edge of modernity. It's as much about survival and reinvention as it is about science and healing. My Boy Jack. My Boy Jack tells the intimate story behind patriotic slogans. John Jack Kipling longs to serve as war gathers in the 1910s, though his eyesight should keep him home. His father, author Rudyard Kipling, believes in duty and empire. His mother senses the abyss beneath that belief. The film follows Jack through training to the Western Front, while at home the Kiplings wrestle with pride, dread, and the unbearable arithmetic of risk. Letters cross the channel, silences return. What begins as a family disagreement becomes a study in how love can push and protect at once, and how ideals meet their reckoning in mud and smoke. The battle scenes are intimate rather than spectacular, keeping the focus on faces, the young trying to be brave, the older learning that bravery sometimes means admitting doubt. By the Breaker Morant. Set during the tail end of the Second Boer War in 1901, Breaker Morant tells the riveting and tragic true story of 3 Australian soldiers, Harry Breaker Morant, Peter Handcock and George Whitton, who are court-martialed by the British Army for killing Boer prisoners. The film unfolds almost entirely through the tense trial, where the men face accusations of executing orders in a war where the rules have blurred beyond recognition. As the defense fights to prove they were following commands, the drama raises sharp questions about justice, loyalty, and the ugly compromises of empire. Against the stark South African landscapes, the story becomes both an intense legal battle and a meditation on the moral cost of war. Iron-Jawed Angels. Iron-Jawed Angels tells the powerful true story of the women who fought for the right to vote in early 20th century America. Centered on suffragists Alice Paul and Lucy Burns, the film follows their bold modern approach to activism, organizing parades, lobbying Congress, and staging hunger strikes to demand change. Set against the backdrop of World War I, the story shows how these women clashed with political leaders, endured arrest, and faced brutal treatment in prison, yet refused to be silenced. The film doesn't just depict political history, it captures the personal sacrifices, friendships, and courage behind the movement. With its mix of period authenticity and contemporary energy, Iron-Jawed Angels portrays the suffrage struggle not as a dry chapter in history, but as a passionate fight for justice that reshaped the nation. It's an inspiring reminder of the determination needed to secure basic rights many take for granted today.